Leave no leave yes leave.
A bit of background. I work as the sole IT guy in a firm with about 75 people that is part of a larger nationwide mother firm. Our local firm has an ongoing agreement with another local firm that we play backup for each other. In case either one needs help, backup, knowledge sharing, whatever. This has been the case since 2009. I work for this firm since 2002. Kind of an old hat if you want. We have this generous leave package that builds the longer we work here. A starter has 180 hours per year leave. Someone with 20 plus years has 240 hours. I have that. Now because we have this much leave, I'm of a mind not to be all too strict with the when and the how. I am single and have no kids, so I'm happy to let others with kids take priority to handle school holidays. As such, the last 15-something years I have always taken the bulk of my leave in September, October, and the rest in Fridays counting back from New Year, if that makes sense. The only rules we have regarding when and how we take leave is no more than 6 weeks together. You can't transfer more than 7 days to the next year, and leave must be approved, which it almost always is. My big boss. As per usual, I put in my leave request for September, October, somewhere in May. This gets approved. Around August we get news from our hardware vendor that they will be installing our new server cluster in the end of September. Not cool, but wada yaganado. I talk it over with Big Boss and agree to move my leave to February, March of the next year. I don't mind too much. He is happy. I am happy, and we go ahead and plan it all in. My department head. Since I am a one-man department, but core are gonna be core, I have a department head that oversees my department along with a few others. Somewhere end of September, her walks into my office and tells me when I am planning to take the bulk of my leave. I tell him about the server cluster install and that my leave is moves to Mar. Now one cannot be a department head or part of Manglement and still be reasonable, right? So he tells me that since I won't be taking my leave in this year, it will be forfeit. I tell him I have an agreement with Big Boss, to which he states that he talked about it with Big Boss and that the arrangement won't work since he didn't approve it. I take my phone and call Big Boss. He states that, indeed, my leave will not be approved and can't be moved to next year. So I tell him okay. KMC. I was pissed. Not just angry, but genuinely over the moon. Ready to murder someone, pissed. So I took a half day and went home and mulled things over. With age comes wisdom, and I know not to take decisions when I am that angry. Next day I go in and ask a leave statement from our HR department that has a counter of all our leave and, more important, overtime. I had around 700 hours overtime standing, accrued over the years, and 220 hours leave. So I put in 5 weeks leave, 1 week 1 overtime, 5 weeks leave, 1 week overtime, and so on till I landed in the first week of January. Then I put in the remaining overtime and landed in the end of February. Next to that I sent in my resignation and 3 months notice, which I planned exactly on the last day of my leave. Not half an hour later, my big boss and department head are at my desk asking me what gives. I told them that since department head had told me I couldn't transfer the leave I would be taking it this year, and since the agreement to move my leave was broken, I felt I didn't have another choice but to look for other work where agreements in fact were honored. I asked them what rule of the workers' manual regarding leave I had broken, and if any, could they point it out? After that talk I went home and the waiting game began. Big Boss called me next morning on my work cell asking me to come in. Sorry, no. I'm on leave. Happy to make a pot of coffee if you want to drop by. So he drops by. Things get talked about. Seems his department head wasn't entirely upfront with him, although he wasn't innocent either. And he wants to make things right. My 6 months leave stayed in place and he offered to match the offers I would get from other firms to keep me on board, within reason. Conclusion. All in all, now I still work for the same firm with a 15% wage increase. I don't do overtime anymore. Neither does my laptop come home with, and my work phone stays at work too. I still do my job to the best of my abilities, but at the end of the day, if my hours are done, I go home. The building can be on fire. If my clock is out, I am out the door. Now me leave gets planned around my preference too. No more shifting around other people's leaves. And the lesson, children, is don't F with the IT guy.
Love the offer to come to your place. Well played.
And he offered to match the offers I would get from other firms to keep me on board, within reason. So, I wasn't worth the extra money until I threatened to leave. And even then, the best you can do is maybe match, as long as it's not more than you want to pay me. Quote. Curious minds want to know, what was the department head not honest about? Well done. Kudos. And that's how MC should play out. Just positive effect. No drama. But it does kinda leave the story for this sub wanting. I hear you, brother. I've done things the same way you have, flexible where I can. Sure, I can move my holiday if I didn't yet book anything. And wherever I worked where that was a two-way street, it worked out really well for everyone. And where people thought they can apply the fine print, they quickly found out that two people can play that game. Corporate politics. I don't like to play the game, but if I'm forced to, I can. Love your 5151 schedule. That's creatively malicious compliance. I'm glad you decided to care less after all that. They'll be learning this lesson again and again every day for the rest of your employment. I tell loyal employees all of the time, they will eventually use you up and spit you out. My favorite saying is, things won't change unless it breaks. This means, unless you aren't doing your excellent job above what is expected, things will not function. You have made accommodations for the company, which they now have become accustomed to as the norm. They were going to screw you out of vacation time, money, and didn't think it was a problem as it didn't affect them. Good for you to have kept it strictly professional. Your earlier way of feeling that your job was a part of your family and you wanted to give your all went on deaf ears, and they believed they could dismiss your efforts on their behalf as what you did, and didn't appreciate that it was above and beyond. I am gobsmacked that there's no on-site backup for you. The big boss was pretty bright to recognize his entire career was on the line. For any non-IT folks who don't quite grasp the situation, in modern businesses, the IT systems are the business. They handle inventory, production queues, scheduling, payroll, hiring, etc. Apart from leadership, everything that used to be a corporate HQ function has been replaced by software. Everything. People are there to act as an intelligent interface to the software. When you have exactly one guy in IT and he's been there 20 years, his departure would herald the end of the business. It would either have to be sold to a competitor or declare bankruptcy and sell everything for parts. The loss of the one IT guy would be roughly analogous to losing the only person who knows how to move money around, or the only person who knows how to make the parts, or the only person who knows how to open the building. Those are kind of silly examples. Except they're not, because IT really is that essential. Citation. Used to work for a Fortune 500 corporation whose name is part of everyday language. If the IT systems went down and stayed down, the company would be hemorrhaging money by the end of the day, unable to move or produce by the end of the week, and cash flow bankrupt by the end of the month. I watched this kind of outage happen to a subsidiary. It took dozens of IT people from the parent corporation to keep the subsidiary afloat through that crisis. You called it manglement, and now I will be using that term for the rest of my life. Absolutely glorious. You were willing and able to be reasonable. You were willing to let those with family have first preference so they could spend time with their kids. You were willing to do overtime. And they pissed it all away. Q. I like you, IT guy. I like you. If the building was on fire, I would hope that you were out the door regardless of whether you are on or off the clock. English idioms. Over the moon equals deliriously happy. Old hat equals old. Banal and uninteresting. Old hand equals an expert with long tenure. Love it. Head of IT that doesn't take phone calls outside of normal business hours? That job doesn't exist. Unless you're part owner or a favorite relative. Their loyalty is a tissue of lies you can't count on to wipe your butt with.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.